And welcome back. It is ITK Chalk Talk. I'm Robert Williamson, and our co-host is Nick Singleton. Got a very special guest with us, David Angeron, who is the national recruiter for My Time Sports, also an author and certified sports psychology coach, minor league baseball coach, scout, national recruiter. Man, you got a lengthy name title, so there's a lot of tasks that you do, but I got to admit the one that stands out to me that really piques my interest is that certified sports psychology coach. We hear throughout the athletic era that the mind is so important to the way one performs the game. So you've obviously got direct and certified knowledge of that fact.
Certainly. I mean, that's one of the most important things, for athletes to advance to the next level is to be able to, control your mind. Your mind is your biggest component, your biggest competitor. And, if you let it defeat you, you cannot advance to the next level.
Before I let Nick jump in, because I know he's got all kinds of questions, I've got to ask, though, the mind is so different from player to player. I mean, do you, as a coach, is there like one set of rules or guidelines that you follow, or do you find yourself having to alter that plan because of the different mentality of the athletes?
Yeah, it's definitely individualized process. I mean, every player has different personality types. You have to really find out what works best for each individual player. You can't cookie cutter anybody at the elite athletic level. I see a lot of coaches that do try to coach all players the same way, and it just doesn't work. I mean, that's one thing I've been doing for 20 years at every level, at the high school, the college, and the professional level, and to be able to get on their level individually and figure out what makes them reach their peak at certain times is, what's important.
Nick?
Yep, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. And Dave, I appreciate you being on the show. I've been a part of some of the My Time workouts that you guys have put on, in Montgomery, Alabama, Pensacola, Florida, Summit, Mississippi. I mean, I know you do a lot more, throughout the Southeast. But I know your connections stretch a lot further than just the Southeast. I mean, you got a network system in place throughout the United States, from your time spent as a minor league coach and a scout and numerous other things. But, the pro style workouts that I've been to that you guys put on, it really gives a good measurable for these players because, you have an analytics machine, a Flight Scopes analytics machine that gives you some data that I can't read. I mean, some of it I can, but it's very, very, I can't even think of the word for it. There's so many tools that the thing can do. So, what other areas do you do the My Time stuff with?
Well, we're expanding coast to coast. The COVID stuff's kind of shut us down, but, I started scouting with the Global Scouting Bureau back in 1997. So, it's been over 20 years. I used to go to California, to New York, to Pennsylvania, all over to do that. And we built that network of, college coaches that always needed us to help them move their players to professional baseball. And now they're reaching out to us to help them find quality high school athletes. So, that's what we do. We try to go coast to coast. We focus mostly right here in the Southeast right now because it's hard to travel with the COVID stuff. But the Flight Scope analytic machine, it just takes the human error out of things. I know as a scout personally, and as a college coach, it gets frustrating when you have these coaches, call you and say, hey, I got a kid that throws 88, or I got a kid that runs a 6.5 60, and you're excited about getting them in, or you're excited about going to see them, and you waste a whole bunch of time, and you get there and they throw 81, or they run a 7.2 60. And now all these showcase companies are, padding stats and padding information, and it's really not credible for the baseball world. And it makes it frustrating for scouts and college coaches. So, we're not here to sugarcoat anything. We try to be as honest as possible. You're not helping the athlete by padding their numbers. So the Flight Scope analytic machine, it helps us eliminate human error. It gives the college coaches and the scouts the factual information. And, that's what My Time's all about.
Yeah, and you'd mentioned the COVID. You dropped that word, COVID. What have you seen happen with recruiting since COVID hit?
It's been kind of crazy. I mean, everybody else is kind of shut down, but we're busier than can be. I wear multiple hats, but the NCAA, they try to do things to help the athletes. Giving them another year, and things like that. So they thought they were doing the right thing, but at the same time, it bottlenecked a lot of the recruiting. You know, there's so many players now in the transfer portal coming out. You know, Division I schools had 50 something players that they got to cut down to 35 or 40. You know, by the break. I mean, it's really just jammed up the recruiting process, and it's making things a lot more difficult and making us a lot busier because, you know, we're having to help move some of these Division I players off to other schools. And, you know, some of these early commits, you know, that's another subject that we probably could get off onto a whole hour worth of episode about. But all these early commits, you know, getting decommitted and, you know, having to help them find a new place, you know, it's really made things more challenging for us, for sure.
Well, I know, you know, your background, you spent a lot of time doing things at an early age, you know, coaching minor league baseball and different areas. And I know one of the areas you coached at, which former independent league team, Pensacola Pelicans, I played for them. And I believe it was a few years after maybe you had managed the team there. But, you know, after that, you bounced around doing a lot of things. I mean, is that how you built your network system?
Yeah, I mean, without the job in Pensacola, you know, I wouldn't be where I am today. It was actually supposed to just be a summer league job for me. I mean, it was the first year that we put Pensacola together. You know, I went in, we didn't even have an ownership group. You know, I had to do everything by myself as a general manager and, you know, coach and everything else. And then I was fortunate, Quint Studer bought the team and, you know, hired me on full time to stay. We ended up winning the championship that first year. And Quint Studer is just an awesome mentor. I mean, he's helped me in so many ways to develop personally and spiritually and professionally. And he actually wrote the foreword in my best-selling book, Mental Training Guide for Elite Athletes. And, you know, without the job in Pensacola, I wouldn't be anywhere, you know, near where I am today.
Sure. Well, so if I were to pose the question, hey, David, what is My Time Sports? What would your answer be to that? How would you respond to that?
I mean, it's the most credible college placement service in the country. I mean, we have professional baseball scouts that run the organization. Again, everything that we put out there is factual and, you know, is run by professional scouts that have over 20 years of experience.
Okay. All right. So I know you do the My Time Sports, but what's this mental master training company that I'm hearing about?
Like I said, I've been doing mental training for my athletes for 20 years. You know, I just happened to get my master's degree in healthcare administration and then get my certification in sports psychology coaching and stress management coaching the last couple of years. And that's where everything's going now. I mean, so many athletes are spending money on baseball lessons, trying to get, you know, increase their batting average and increase their arm strength. But, you know, they're mentally weak. They can't get through the adversity. They can't, you know, bounce back from injuries or, you know, bad things going to happen in baseball or in sports in general, but especially in baseball. And you know, if you hit 300, you're successful. So you're failing 70% of the time. There's a lot of players out there that don't know how to embrace that failure. You know, they can't handle that. You think they got to hit 1,000. You know, if they struggle a little bit to get up to the plate, now they're trying to go 5 for 3, which is impossible. So, you know, the mental side of the game is so important. So the more I use it to help my athletes advance. It's helped my teams, you know, win championships in the past. I've been known as a coach that was able to make chicken salad out of chicken poop, you know, sometimes just taking bad situations and turn them into good situations. And now with my book and my mental master training business, I'm able to help more players advance. And instead of just focusing on individual teams, you know, I can help players worldwide.
Yeah, well, that mental toughness, I don't believe that people are really born with that. That's more of an acquired skill, you know, but having a mental coach that's able to, you know, help them speed up that process has got to be invaluable.
Right. And you know, the game, you know, it speeds up on you. Once you start to have some stress and you don't know how to control your breathing, all of a sudden the 85-mile-an-hour fastball look 95. But if you have proper coaching and know how to slow the game down mentally and how to reset and compete every pitch, you know, you can actually slow the game down. And that 85-mile-an-hour fastball now all of a sudden looks like it's 75 or sitting on a tee. And, you know, the athletes that are trained professionally to be able to slow the game down, they're the ones that succeed. And the ones that, you know, get in slumps and struggle, it's just because the game speeds up for them too fast.
Sure. Well, I know Robert's probably got a couple questions for you, but, you know, I mean, this is a perfect time to talk about it just briefly, because it could turn into a 45-minute conversation if we really got into it. But a perfect example is the Simone Biles situation going on with the Olympics. You know, I mean, I'm sure you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of pressure on those kids. A lot of people said she gave up on her team, but you're in that situation and competing at that level and that type of stage. If she's not mentally ready and the game speeds up for her in gymnastics, one slip is, not only career ending, it could be life ending. She could slip up and break her neck, so the mental health part of it, and I like to call it the brain health, because a lot of people think when I talk about mental training, they think it's mental illness. They're like, oh, I don't want to get help because everybody's going to think I'm mentally weak or I have mental illness. They don't realize that training the brain is what really helps you succeed. And, sometimes you got to step back and say, hey, look, I'm not in it today. There's a lot of days that baseball players or athletes just show up and they don't feel good. You've been there before. You've been on the mound. You just didn't have your stuff sometimes. You got to, if you're feeling 70%, you got to go out there and try to get 100% of that 70%, instead of going out there and pouting and saying, oh, my body didn't feel good today, so now I might only get 50% because I'm dragging because I don't feel right. But in her situation, I think she made the right choice, just, understanding and recognizing that, hey, she wasn't mentally there that day. And, it possibly could have prevented her from, ruining her career or ruining her life.
Dave, first of all, you're telling me that occasionally Nick didn't have his best stuff when he went to the hill? I mean, I got to ask this question. This is an ever-changing environment in regards to social media and the influence social media has on everyone, athlete included. And you got the keyboard warriors who know everything about every sport. So how does that influence how you develop the mental aspect of an athlete when you've got so many different voices in the ear of those baseball players?
Yeah, I mean, it's really coaching them up to recognize themselves. You're going to have people tell them different things. The parents are going to tell them different things. The coaches are going to tell them different things. We just want to educate them on again, factual information. And like you said, every player is different. So we want to teach them how to recognize themselves and understand, what's best for them in each situation. And yes, they're going to hear different things. They need to know when to block stuff out and when to accept it, when to believe it and when not to believe it. You don't want to believe everything you see, especially on social media these days.
David Angeron, it's a fascinating topic, and you have got so much in that mind of yours that you're right. We could take multiple episodes and still be calling new stuff from you. But it has been great to have you on ITK Chalk Talk. Thanks so much for being our guest.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
More guests coming up on this week's edition of ITK.